Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Module 2 on Navigating a Multi-Crisis Context. This is Liz from the United Cities and Local Governments. So, we see some of the mayors already here. Should we begin?
Maybe we can start, Liz.
Okay,
You will with others. Yeah, they will join you.
okay. So, let's start with this module. Let me invite UCLG ASPAC Secretary General Dr. Bernadia Irawati Chandradewi to deliver a welcome message. Dr. Bernadia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Very good morning. Namaste. Very good to see all the mayors again today. I hope everyone is doing very well. And I also like to welcome our speakers. We have Mayor of Ternate. Good morning, Mayor Ternate, Mayor Tauhid. Also, we have representative from Jakarta, Pak Andika Aji. We also expect Mayor of Palu, and of course, welcome to C40, Alisa Raj, for joining us today. And this module is module 2 that we developed together with, of course, all the partners of Asia Pacific Mayors Academy and with IGES. So let me begin with a question. How can we future-proof our cities? I think as a mayor, you know very well the important role that you play in creating enabling environment for cities today to prepare for and address the future shocks and stresses. So resilient cities, this is very, very essential for a sustainable future. I think this is an important subject that all of us are addressing. How can we create resilient cities for all, not only for our generation, but also for future generation as well. So together, we certainly need to address this module. This is module 2 on navigating a multi-crisis context, key approaches for addressing multiple crises. And this has been designed to introduce crisis recovery frameworks and demonstrate how recovery can build resilient and link this crisis recovery and the sustainable development goals. Today, you will also hear from our partners about the VLR, Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the localization of these goals. But when we know there are a lot of crises that we are facing, we also don't know what will be the future crisis that we will face. So cities must be ready in addressing those multiple crises. And we have been experiencing a lot of crises. That include, of course, this COVID-19 pandemic. And sometimes we know that those crises are beyond our control and our capacities. But in this module, we want not only to highlight how these cities are addressing those crises by only responding to those crises, but also most important is how can we reduce those risks, not only the current risks, but also the potential risks that might occur in the future. So with those most pressing challenges in your cities and how we are addressing them, this is one of the important subjects that we are discussing today. But we are not talking about something that abstracts. What we are talking is about also reality, because we also invited several cities that already experience and have some solutions. So through this module, we also like to emphasize the need for integrated solutions, especially for local governments. You certainly need to integrate those plans, make a comprehensive plans, and integrate this in your medium or long-term plan, because then you can execute those plans with a budget to be attached to those plans. So let me finally say here by putting this phrase. I don't know, maybe you have heard about this phrase earlier. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Maybe you agree with this phrase, but this is important to have a very comprehensive plans that is linked with the budget to ensure execution. So let's hope that you will be able to learn several perspectives from experts, also from local government representatives, from mayors here. So let's also have a productive session. And as similar to previous module, this module 2 will also include Mentimeter, icebreaker session, will also include some scenario, because we want really to hear from you, particularly how with those multiple crises that we are facing, our cities can be ready. So this is the goal that we want to have for this module. So I really hope you enjoy the module. And of course, in the end of this module, I really like to hear also some of your suggestions, feedback, how we can improve this module. So all mayors, are you ready to start this module too? Can I see thumbs up? Okay, I see some mayors smile and ready for this module. So thank you again. So I give this floor to Liz. You can proceed. Thank you, mayors.
Thank you, Dr. Bernadia. So without further ado, let's continue with the first session of this module on urban recovery from crisis. So as Dr. Bernadia, next slide, please. As Dr. Bernadia mentioned, we will be having a Menti exercise. So if you could please scan the QR code on your screens, or you can type www.menti.com and include the code 15055660 to access our exercise.
All mayors ready with this Mentimeter? Shall we give some time for the mayor to connect to the Mentimeter? Mayors? Okay, so the first question is, the Asia Pacific region is facing multiple crises. Which among those strongly affect your city or municipality? I saw some mayors already answered. This relate to natural disaster and also energy crisis. Mayors, would you like to us to wait for a few seconds to get other mayors to answer as well?
Yes, ma'am. Please wait, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Also, our speakers, you are most welcome to answer these questions, yeah? Pak Haji and also others, please join if you like. This is an exercise not only for the mayors, but also for cities representatives. So here we see answers related to climate change, energy crisis, and natural disasters. So I don't see anyone click these others, because if someone click others, I want to hear also what the other crisis that you put here. So COVID-19 indeed we experienced earlier, and we still feel the impact of this the effect of COVID-19. And I think more and more answers is given for climate change here. And this is also what we are experiencing, and we feel already a very extreme weather So can we go now? I think all already give good answers. So the second question, what do local and regional governments need to effectively address these multiple crises in the region? This is a open answer. So you can write sentences, you can write words, you can, you can even put some more answers here. So not just one response. So oh yeah, this is important, collaboration. And it's a key point also for us to make effective actions to address this multiple crisis. I agree with that. And I think everyone also put this as important subjects. Anyone else would like to add here, Mayor? Communication, indeed, this is good. Capacity, maybe capacity for local governments, that's you intend to put here. And then needs to make a comprehensive, maybe plans. This is what are you referring, Mayor? Determination, okay, very good. Awareness, learning from other cities, budget, and prioritization. Indeed, sometimes, if we don't see the crisis immediately, then we don't prioritize it. And this is, I think it's important that we already know the risk and how we prioritize in terms of risk reduction as well. Mitigation, awareness, capacity, technical solution, communication, determination. Shall we wait a few more seconds for more answers? Mayors, you are open to also say here. Okay, resources, yeah, maybe resources. This is also maybe related to human resources as well as other resources, financing. This is mentioned also. Anything else, everyone? Okay. Then I think collaboration and awareness having shown here as a bigger size, that means more and more people address these important aspects as well. So we can go to, I don't I cannot see this, but anyway. Okay, let's move to the third question. How do you address this crisis? I think you experience in your own cities of various crises, including maybe flood, or you have this extreme weather. You also, please put here some of your responses. How do you address this crisis? By having a very solid coordination, maybe among your departments, or by, I don't know, any mayors would like to put here the answers? How do you address this crisis? By having a strong institutional, yeah, this is good, develop policies. We would first create awareness campaign, yeah, having an adequate plan and comprehensive plan, yep. Any more answers? Practice with similar challenges. And maybe how you also connect with higher level of governments here, maybe central governments, how you think that they can help you in addressing this crisis. Indeed, acquire a strong finance, comprehensive planning, yeah, it's already there, yes, thank you. And when the crisis happened, what immediately you address this crisis? Then align with other regions and learn from other cities or other partners. Yes, work with universities. This is interesting. I think this is a question that we can give to you later, how you work with university. Collaboration with higher governments. Measurable actions. Good. Shall address the analysis crisis. Okay. You analyze the crisis and you address that. Okay. We'll make a comprehensive strategy, which may include behavior change, communication, advocacy with policy. This is quite interesting. All of your answers are very good. And I think it's important also to address this immediate response or long-term plan that you like to include in addressing those crises. So comprehensive study to address, engage residents, because you also know you already know which community are affected most. And so we have maybe some of you already have mapping, these mappings in the areas, and then you already know these areas that affected most by those crises. So identification of those crises, you already have it. So how you handle each crisis may be different. Yeah. So planning for short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Great. Any more answers? Oh, I see that capacity building. Yeah, this is unforgettable because capacity building is always needed. Even for cities and developed countries as well. So evidence-based research, great. And establish cross-learning platforms. This is also interesting. And this is something that we are also developing for a cross-learning platform for the region. So if you're okay, can we move now to the last question? What is the most important instruments needed to overcome this crisis? Please also include something that are not written here. Welcome. Maya Gana, you already give answer. So budget, indeed, budget is important. Internal coordination, stakeholders engagement, is all equal right now, okay? Yes, now budget. Stakeholders engagement, indeed. Nobody answer others? Others? Stakeholders engagement, clear legal mandate. So these are important elements or important instruments that you need to overcome this crisis. And let's wait for a few more seconds and then we can end this Mentimeter if all done. Okay, great. Shall we wait a few more seconds? We still have time, please. Okay, we can add. So, okay, you have reached the end of presentation. So thank you so much for joining this Mentimeter. This is a part of our icebreaker session. So let me get back to Liz for continuation. But I hope, May, as you enjoy, there will be another Mentimeter before we close this module 2. And I'm sure before closing, you will be more familiar with the Mentimeter. So let me give back to Liz, please.
Thank you, Dr. Bernadia. So can we put on the slides back? And we'll have a short video to continue.
Ce décalogue est basé sur 10 recommandations clés qui ont été apportées durant ces 2 derniers mois. Il sera l'instrument, notre instrument politique pour la crise et l'après-crise. Car le monde de demain ne sera pas le même que celui d'aujourd'hui. Car les sacrifices de nos communautés impacteront les générations futures et ne doivent pas passer inaperçus.
Tenemos la oportunidad de no volver a la normalidad anterior, una normalidad que tenía muchos problemas, muchas desigualdades, muchas injusticias. No queremos volver a la contaminación, no queremos volver a los desalojos masivos, no queremos volver a la especulación de bienes básicos, no queremos volver a la injusticia ni a la violencia. Hay que proteger la vida humana, poner la vida en el centro y para ello hay que proteger los bienes básicos que la hacen posible.
Llamamos la atención particularmente de este sector de la población, habitantes de calle, que ha crecido en todas las ciudades del mundo. ¿Cómo aprovechamos estas medidas especiales que se han tomado de cara a la pandemia para poder generar inclusión, para poder lograr que estas personas se reinserten?
Los líderes de los gobiernos locales y regionales de todo el planeta estamos seguros que las regiones, provincias, ciudades, pueblos y territorios ya no volverán a ser los mismos después de esta crisis. Debemos cumplir con la seguridad alimentaria y también promocionar modelos sostenibles que generen riqueza y bienestar.
Kapsayıcı yeniliklerden yararlanmamızı sağlayan yakınlık üretim modellerinin küçük işletmeler ve yeni işletmeleri gözeterek geliştirilmesi gerekecektir. Gıda sistemlerine bölgesel yaklaşım, çevreye duyarlı bir şekilde yürütülmeli. Yalnızca güvenliği değil, sürdürülebilir modelleri de garanti altına almalı ve istihdam oluşturacak yerel kalkınmayı güçlendirmelidir.
Time has come to ensure full inclusion, full participation of women and girls in politics and the social fabrics of cities and regions. It's critical to put in place gender violence responses to protect women worldwide and ensure their access to basic services.
第七，应重视和关爱医护人员、社区工作者和志愿者，确保医护人员个人防护装备、医疗设备供应充足和工作环境安全舒适，确保在突发公共卫生事件发生时，医疗系统不发生崩溃。
In UCLG MEWA, we are aware that the only way forward is via co-creation with our community, volunteer, local actors, and with full collaboration and solidarity between different spheres of government. Culture needs to consolidate as the fourth pillar of sustainable development.
Culture is a fundamental tool to reorganize our societies and around more human ideas in order for us to restore lost balances and ideals, but also to create with imagination the chance to rethink and reinvent the world we want to live in.
Sigamos apoyándonos entre las ciudades, entre los gobiernos locales, que entre todos y todas vamos a seguir construyendo un mundo mejor post-pandemia.
UCLG has been fostering collective learning from the very beginning of the pandemic. Local and regional governments will continue to work tirelessly, learning and supporting each other as a worldwide system of cities, local governments and regions to lead the discussion with communities on how our future will be shaped.
Thank you. So we have seen the Decalogue for the post-COVID-19 era from UCLG, so which includes the 10 recommendations that you saw at the end of the video message. So are there any reflections from our mayors on the video that we had just seen? If you have comments or reactions, just let us know. All right, so there are two key messages that we can get from the video. So local and regional governments are at the forefront in facing multiple crises, and crises have multi-linked impact. So next slide, please. So the multidimensional nature of multiple crises necessitates integrated action, digital solutions, and participatory approaches. These are embedded in each of the thematic areas of urban and territorial planning, resilient multi-level climate action, digital transformation in cities, and urban finance. To give you a broader perspective in navigating a multi-crisis context, we have invited several experts and local leaders who will share their insights throughout this module. Next slide, please. So for the first one, let me invite the World Health Organization Western Pacific Regional Office, Regional Emergency Director, Dr. Babatunde Olowokure. I hope I read your name correctly, for his presentation on emerging stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sorry, can you hear me, Liz?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. And will somebody advance my slides on my behalf?
Yes, please, we will.
Okay. So if we could go with the first slide then, please. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And so this is just, of course, the introductory slide, just so we are all orientated to the topic. And then I am going to talk about emerging stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic. And if we go to the next slide, please. I think you've covered some of this on your Mentimeter, and actually I was quite interested in some of the responses from the Mentimeter, especially given our experience with COVID-19, which will be mainly, excuse me, the focus of what I will talk about. Sorry, I'm getting something on my screen. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Strange going on. Okay. Okay. So, and clearly, when we say these public health emergencies can be triggered by all these, the variety of the hazards that you can see, we should also recall that these hazards may occur simultaneously. And so this complex mix of different hazards, particularly in urban areas, is something that we really need to get to grips with. And the talk I will give today, very short, but I will try to focus on a WHO publication with regards to this, as well as our recent regional health emergency framework. Now, if we go to the next slide, please. Now, what we know is that cities and urban settings are critical to preventing, preparing, and recovering from health emergencies. And therefore, enhancing the focus on urban settings, as you are doing, is necessary for countries pursuing improved overall health and health security at national and subnational level. Urban areas, especially cities, have unique vulnerabilities that need to be addressed and accounted for in health emergency preparedness. As has been said at the beginning, an unprepared urban setting is, or one that has not prepared, is one that is going to fail. And as we have seen, an unprepared urban setting is more vulnerable to the catastrophic effects of health emergencies and can amplify spread of diseases. This has been seen in previous outbreaks, and very clearly we saw this with COVID-19, including not just the health impacts, but also the social impacts and the economic and political impacts. It is therefore crucial that health emergency preparedness in urban settings is addressed through policy development, capacity building, and concrete activities undertaken at national, subnational, and city levels. The COVID-19 pandemic brought health emergency preparedness to the forefront of the political agenda at the highest level of government. Urban settings were often the epicenter of the pandemic and frontline of the response. So we should really grab this moment for countries to build on the momentum of the COVID-19 pandemic and related discussions to ensure that their cities and urban settings are better prepared and ready to prevent, detect, and respond to future health threats and emergencies. If we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, some of you may be familiar with this framework. This was published by WHO in 2021, and it's a framework for strengthening health emergency preparedness in cities and urban settings. If you're not familiar with the framework, the URL is at the bottom, and you can access the document from that particular URL. Now, this framework intends to facilitate an increased focus on cities in health emergency preparedness. The framework is targeted towards policymakers in all sectors engaged in health emergency preparedness in cities and urban settings at both national and subnational levels, as well as relevant stakeholders within the international community. The framework was developed by a technical working group, or as you see there, a TWG, and this was really pulled together by WHO and Singapore, and the government of Singapore, and so we appreciate the contribution that Singapore made to the development of this framework, as well as, of course, the other independent experts and consultants who helped to prepare this particular framework. So these challenges that have been outlined both in your Mentimeter as well as the ones that you have experienced are really ones that can be addressed, as we see here, in 8 key areas that we have outlined. And I would suggest you go to the document for further detail. But to address these challenges, we require a political as well as a technical shift in how we approach and implement the all hazards approach to health emergency preparedness at the local, city, and urban level. Past operating models need to be reviewed and revised, including mandates, financing, and the interface between national policy and local service delivery. COVID-19 and the resultant increased political focus on urban preparedness presents an opportunity that must be taken. Different tools and resources that contribute to strengthening health emergency preparedness in urban settings, both existing and to be developed in the future, can be linked to this particular framework, as well as to other frameworks. And they will support its implementation and contribute to a coordinated approach among the multiple stakeholders working for strengthened urban preparedness. One such framework is the Asia Pacific Health Security Action Framework. And the next slide, please. So this framework was developed in the WHO Western Pacific region, and is actually bi-regional and also includes WHO's Southeast Asia region. What COVID-19 did was to highlight the vulnerabilities and important roles that cities and other urban settings play in health emergencies. Now, what we have noticed is that the pandemic itself affected lives, livelihoods, economies, and societies, and again has cost, I believe, over 11 trillion and counting. I think we are really probably about 20 trillion US dollars at this stage. However, when we compare this in terms of that's what responding costs, when we look at emergency preparedness, on the other hand, it's relatively cost effective. And so therefore it is cheaper to be prepared than it is to be able to respond to these public health emergencies, particularly when they are occurring simultaneously. And so some of you may know, and I'll just use the example of Tonga here, that Tonga had to deal with the COVID-19 epidemic. They also dealt with a volcanic eruption and a tsunami, and all of these things happened within a 2-week period. But they were better prepared I would say they were well prepared for a response to all 3 at the same time, although of course they then had to call on support from outside Tonga. And so again, it's about when something happens, where are your collaborations? Where are your partners? Where are the people that you can call upon to support you in terms of your response? And if we go to the next slide, which is my last slide, is really what we want is to move away from this panic and then forget cycle, where investments are made and advancements are made in response to past emergencies, such as COVID-19, but they are not sustained beyond the acute phase, and countries and their cities return to a state of unpreparedness. So, as I have said, it is really opportune for countries and the international community to build on the momentum of the COVID-19 pandemic and to ensure that their cities and urban settings are better placed to prevent, detect, and respond to future health threats and emergencies. This needs to be translated into political commitment at the highest level, supported by funding and resources for capacity building. And again, this was brought out in the Mentimeter. However, it should be noted, of course, that there is extreme diversity in terms of cities, both within and between countries. And so this means that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, even within a single country. However, what you see outlined here are very important key requirements for cities and urban centers to emerge stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so therefore, what I will conclude with is saying that really when this framework is implemented, that it will strengthen health emergency preparedness in cities and urban settings. This will, of course, then contribute to strengthen national, regional, and global health security. And finally, cities as essential actors in the global community, also have a role in the sharing of expertise, lessons learned, and resources through various city networks, including those focusing on resilience, emergency preparedness, and health in general, as well as through the activities of this academy as well. And so therefore, this really is, I'm very, very happy to be here to really provide you with some outline of the work that WHO is doing in this particular area. Thank you very much, and back to you, Liz.
Thank you so much for the pointers that you have given to our mayors as to how they will be able to address future public health emergencies more efficiently. So are there any questions from our mayors at this point? If not, thank you once again to the regional director. Yes, to the emergency director from WHO. If there are no questions to our speaker, let me proceed to our next speaker, Ms. Alisa El Raj, Deputy Regional Director for East, Southeast Asia, and Oceania of C40. The floor is yours, Alisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'm just checking, are you able to share my slides for me?
Yes, we will.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Selamat petang. I'm actually based in Kuala Lumpur, so nice to meet all of you properly. And today I will be kind of sharing the delivery of a green and just recovery through the lens of an urban area, as well as a bit more of the climate change perspective. Next slide, please. So I know I have about 5 minutes, so I'm going to skim through some slides really quickly. But C40 is basically a network of mayors of global cities. And one thing to keep in mind is we do have bigger cities as members, but we're also, in a way, the biggest contributors to climate change, and also areas that will be feeling, in a way, the biggest impacts of climate change as well. Next slide, please. So even at 1 degree Celsius, many of our cities are already feeling the big impacts of climate change. I think everyone recalls in 2022, Seoul had some devastating floods, and even a city in a country that developed and well-planned actually had fatalities within the city limits. Quezon City, as well as the Metro Manila area right now, and in other parts of Southeast Asia, for the last month and a half have been facing really bad heat waves. And of course, Jakarta, these pictures are actually from a January article. So Jakarta as well, quite regularly faces floods, but these are getting more intense. And the ability of our existing infrastructure to cope is decreasing because the intensity of these activities and these climate hazards increase a bit more. And one thing to keep in mind as well is in all these crises or climate hazards that occur, it's quite often the most vulnerable that are actually impacted. The fatalities in Seoul were people living in subpar housing conditions. If you think about heat waves, people indoors, people who have offices or can work from home, you maybe are able to work in the comfort of your home. You might have an air conditioner. However, someone working outdoors or making a living, cleaning streets will have a very different perspective and impact and a much higher risk faced by them. Same with, people who have to deal with floods. You may not be able to get to and from somewhere, or perhaps everything you own, everything valuable, your handphone, your wallet, things in your bag, your laptop gets wet if you have to make this commute and you're not in the comfort of your car. So just a few things to keep in mind as policymakers. Next slide, please. So C40, of course, we are really keen to make sure that our cities are taking action against climate change. So this means decreasing carbon emissions, so looking at mitigation actions, but also increasing the adaptation and resilience of our cities in order to make sure that the impacts of climate hazards when they occur are slightly less, or if possible, very much less. But all of this is really, one of the areas that's really important to consider as climate action is being implemented is that the impacts or the benefits are felt by the groups of people that need it the most. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to be going through this slide in detail. It is actually a set of principles that we have, and we've got resources. We can share them with you online. So these are 10 key points. But in summary, I think relating to today, the impacts that policymakers, so mayors in particular, city leaders, and city governments can have are understanding the impacts your policies and actions can have on jobs to create an inclusive community, on resilience and equity. So what public infrastructure can you put in place to actually make sure your city is more resilient? And of course, the culminating impacts that has on your health and well-being. Is your urban space designed in a way that encourages this, or might unintentionally be discouraging it? So next slide, please. Yeah. So I'm going to focus a bit more on this slide because it actually has the case studies. So I'm looking at this from a slightly longer term planning perspective. And there are many more actions or case studies and angles. But because I only have a few minutes today, I'm focusing a little bit more on the nature-based solutions and really kind of highlighting the tangible benefits if we actually incorporate more of this. And the reason why I felt this was a very important area to bring up is every city and every local council likely has a mandate that includes tree planting and parks and recreation support, right? So keeping that in mind, I thought these would be a few case studies that would be useful to share. The first one is really close by. It's in Singapore. I'm sure most of you are aware of this project, the Kallang River Rehabilitation. It is beautiful, and personally, I've been there a few times, so I really enjoy it. But what's interesting is they took a concretized river that looked like a big monsoon drain and renaturalized it to come up and create a sort of park that linked to this nature solution. And this actually increased the water retention capacity of the river by 40%. So this is a huge benefit, and I think it has saved the surrounding areas from being flooded twice, if I recall correctly, but my data is outdated, so I'm not sure if it's happened, again, in the last maybe 2 years. It also has increased 30% biodiversity. So researchers actually looked at the type of species and the number of species of, little insects and birds that are coming to the park, and this has increased. Visitors has also increased over the years since before and after to the park and the surrounding areas. And this investment likely fed off and, benefited the Singapore economy with more people coming in as well. So there's longer term benefits here. The second project is the Green Corridors in Medellin. So this is in Colombia. Not exactly the same as Southeast Asia climate, but they also do have like subtropical weather. So keep in mind, it's close enough in certain seasons. So they actually incorporated 30 green corridors, providing additional large vegetated area in the city. And this immediate surrounding areas, urban heat island has decreased by 2%. So what's interesting about these green corridors is they're actually vegetated transportation corridors for cycling and pedestrians. So this means that you can likely walk in the shade to certain areas. Again, it's maybe not as extensive as it could be, but it's a really, really great start, and it's a large area. This has also created 75 new permanent jobs, feeding into communities surrounding. And of course, the creation of it had more jobs, but in terms of the permanence of the jobs, these are 75 gardeners and landscapers that now have roles beyond and were also coming from communities in need. So there are other benefits here that I won't be looking at, but I need to jump to the next one, which is a very similar project in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And this actually had a mandate from the city government to increase the number of parks from 34 to 100, but also really revitalizing the natural systems within. Again, the surrounding urban heat island decreased by 0.5%. And I'll move over to my next slide. I think that's the last one. Yep. So the next slide is the final slide. So just as I close, I wanted to touch on, understanding the city's role in planning and implementing, creating policies that can support growth and jobs. At the same time, it is also the city's responsibility to make sure it's mainstreamed into your processes. So not when one mayor is in place, it's prioritized, but even after the mayor leaves, that it can continue, that it's embedded, that it's a prioritized thing. And of course, the third point is innovate and advocate. These city networks, UCLG, ECLAY, all these partnerships, GCOM, they're there for a reason, which is really to support each other when we do good work and celebrate that, and also learn from each other. So keep doing this and, work together. And if you need any further information that were in the slide, please feel free to email me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alisa. So we have heard from the health perspective and now the climate perspective. So it's, I hope our mayors are gaining a lot of insights from these experts that we've had for now. And then the next and last presentation for this session is on the Urban Recovery Framework from the Chief of Program Development Branch and Emergency Director of UN Habitat, Mr. Philip De Corte. So we have a recorded presentation. So due to the lack of time, we may need to cut somewhere, but let's play that video, please, on the next slide. I think we're still trying to load the presentation, so please give us a few. Okay. Can you put it on full screen, please?
Good morning. My name is Philippe de Korte. I'm in charge of program development in UN Habitat and also the emergency director of the agency. Allow me to speak to you today about the urban recovery framework, a tool UN Habitat has developed to respond better in the context of urban crisis. A simple definition, it's an enabling institutional and policy framework and related programming to support resilient urban recovery at scale and the renewal of the social contract. It complements the national efforts with bottom-up support to urban recovery. Now, the key questions we are asking ourselves in developing the framework: one, can we clarify the institutional and multi-level governance arrangements, the coordination between the top-down and the bottom-up? What are the policy gaps that need to be tackled to be able to support urban recovery, and how do we adjust the planning systems to be more flexible and nimble to respond to the urgent needs? How do we facilitate local coordination? How do we identify the necessary financing instruments to support bottom-up urban recovery? Often they are absent. And how do we provide guidance on the implementation of immediate and medium-term urban recovery interventions while laying the foundations for longer-term resilience? This is a graph you might be familiar with around what it means to build resilience, so we're able to anticipate better, absorb shocks better, and then adapt and recover quickly through also then a focus on building back better. So the more we increase the resilience, the easier it becomes to withstand shocks. So central concept, of course, when we talk about urban recovery. Now, some other key characteristics. It is multi-sectoral and area-based, meaning we really need to understand the linkages between the different sectoral elements. This is the essence of a city. This is the essence of how a city is spatially constituted. A very simple example, in the context of Homs in Syria, there was one semi-industrial neighborhood where the electricity was not working. It was the only thing that was damaged. It was fundamental because it made, as a consequence, none of the bakeries, none of the food processing factories were able to operate. And it kind of really undercut the assistance we were able to give to other neighborhoods. So the simple fact of restoring electricity in that neighborhood would unlock a local economic potential essential to recovery. Evidently, it's important. This is not a one-off and linear process. We go through the whole cycle, a normal planning cycle of analysis, planning, implementation and monitoring, and continue to do so as we get a better understanding of the situation, more detailed analysis, and then we plan our way forward from the immediate response to the medium-term and the longer-term recovery. Now, a couple of words more on the analysis. It's important to look at context. We are conflict sensitive in the case of a conflict crisis. Evidently, social sensitivity to pre-existing dynamics is important. Looking at housing, land and property is critical, often a bottleneck to return for a lot of people. Making sure we have a better understanding, also a good understanding of the urban challenges before the crisis. In most cases, exactly pre-existing challenges to urbanization or urban development that we need to take into account. They can have to do with density, crowding, already a lack of services pre-crisis, and of course, again, looking at policy gaps. Now, this is an example of how we approached the assessments in the case of the cyclone Idai in Beira, Mozambique. On the left, you see the need exactly to ask questions about short-term, mid-term, and longer-term. And on the right, it's not just about only the physical needs, also looking at governance, capacity building, and financing needs. The classic way, of course, is looking at the way the World Bank and the UN and the EU do it, really quantifying damages and loss, bringing that together, looking at recovery needs, but also at resilience needs. So for us, as I said before, this is not enough. It's important also to bring in the more area-based dimensions and look at the linkages between the different sectors. Now, one thing which is always useful is to build data platforms and bring all those layers together, so you're able to understand better the linkages between those dimensions. It helps also, of course, with coordination and bringing all the data together in an integrated way, no matter who has collected the data to begin with. Planning, critical to exactly that even in a crisis environment, we take the time to sit down with communities and stakeholders to do it together. Critical aspect of recovery, because not only about rebuilding and replanning the built environment, of course, but making sure the communities are fully engaged in that process. Just an example of what we did in Homs in Syria, to get critical elements in the city, but also very important, breaking it down to neighborhoods. The needs of the neighborhoods can be very different. One neighborhood the damage can be such that the focus is really much more on the humanitarian assistance, restoring critical infrastructure, while in other neighborhoods across town, we can have situations where there was almost no damage, but such an influx of displaced populations that the needs are different. Being able to ensure access to markets, dealing with garbage, the electricity, the water needs, dealing with housing issues through the density of the increased population. And of course, then looking at implementation, this is again still an example of Syria. Importance of understanding this not as a list of interventions, but again, understanding the links between the different interventions in different neighborhoods, being able to prioritize and sequence and ensure the right partnerships are in place. Monitoring, evidently important to apply due diligence throughout, always aware, this is on the right, of mapping the stakeholders to be engaged, do no harm principles, making sure that what we do doesn't create problems down the road, and of course looking at the environmental impact and so forth. Now, before I end, allow me to focus on one thing in particular. So the photo on the left is a photo of Borodyanka in Ukraine. And ask yourself, what are you looking at? What is it that comes to mind by looking at the picture? Is it just the damage of war? But if you look...
Thank you. So, due to the lack of time, we can't play the full video from UN Habitat, but we will be sharing this to our mayors after the session. But so far for this session, we have learned and seen how the importance of planning, collaboration, and place-based approach in addressing a crisis at the city level. So once again, we would like to thank our speakers from WHO, C40, and UN Habitat for the first session. So next, if we can proceed now to the next session on the VLRs, allow me to invite one of our partners for this module. Of course, we have Dr. Fernando Ortiz Moya from IHS to facilitate the next parts on the VLR. We will have another mentee also for this session. So Fernando, are you ready? Fernando, is your connection okay?
Please, maybe we can proceed and then you can join later.
Okay.
Maybe he has a connection problem. But while waiting for him, if there is any question from mayors? Are you okay with all this presentation, mayors? Yeah, he's here now. Okay, Fernando, go ahead then. We cannot hear you.
Hello, now?
Yes, now.
Oh, okay, so sorry, I am terrible with computers. Apologize. Okay, yes, so we can start the presentation, please. Okay, so first we are going to have a short icebreaker on Mentimeter. So please, if you can log in again, so we can have a few seconds while everybody logs in. You can use the QR code or also use the code 1610 6808 at menti.com, and you will see the first question. We can see how many people has logged in already. Okay, we have 4 people. I hope we can get some more responses. The first question is, are you aware of what is a voluntary local review? We have 6 responses, no, 8. And the majority so far, it's leaning towards yes. 7 to 2. I think last time we had a few more. 10. Okay, so I think we have already 10 responses. Maybe this is enough, but we can see here how the majority of people here are aware of the voluntary local review, 8 to 2. And now the next question is like, are you interested in undertaking a VLR in your community? So we have 3 options, either a yes, no, or whether you're still unsure. The yes is winning so far, which is very good. We have 7 positive answers. Before we have 10, so maybe we can wait a couple of more seconds to see. So 9 for yes, I hope, and yes, so probably, yeah, so 10 responses, same as before. So at least this is very good that the 10 majors we have here are saying that they would like to conduct a voluntary local review. And now the final question is, in your own capacity, what can your city provide for the development of the voluntary local review? So please type, what do you think is the key elements, technical knowledge, engagement from the mayor, endorsement from the mayor, whatever it comes to mind. And there is no negative, there is no wrong answers. Culture, yes, we are having here a cloud work. Any other options that you think your city can provide for the development of a VLR? Climate change, hand-holding support, stakeholders engagement. Indeed, it's very important to engage with the stakeholder. That's something we will be talking in Module 3B in 1 month time. Climate change help using the VLR to increase your preparedness toward climate change and to different events, unforeseen events and risks and disasters. Capacity development of helping to your own municipal staff and your communities to better understand the challenges of sustainable development and of working with the SDGs. Anybody else? Maybe we can have, yeah. Risk assessment, also local information. We need local information, local data to really assess how your cities are doing progressing against the SDGs. Okay. To help the SDGs, yes, and I think we have 9 answers. Final seconds, because I know we are tight on time, so we might need to move on. So thank you so much for this ice-breaking exercise. I am very happy to see that most of you are aware of voluntary local reviews, as well as have shown you're interested in working on preparing a VLR from your side. So maybe we can go directly to my presentation. Yes, so today's talk, first I'm going to present a little bit of background of my organization, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, which is one of the partners of the Majors Academy. Also why VLRs can help you to navigate a multi-crisis context. Then we will go through examples of VLR's positioning towards COVID-19, and then food for thought and discussion. And I will try to be mindful of the time, but please also, if I am taking too much time, please don't hesitate to stop me. So next slide, please. So the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies is a research institute working with the Japanese government, located here in Japan. We have conducted 4 Japanese VLRs in partnership with local governments. And also we have collaborated with the VLR of the province of West Java in Indonesia. We launched the first online VLR lab when we have a one-stop site center on the VLR movement. Then we also provide the Shimokawa method for VLRs on how to conduct a voluntary local review. And finally, we have an annual comprehensive report series that analyzes the VLR movement called the State of the Voluntary Local Reviews. Next. So why VLRs, and why VLRs to face multi-crisis and help to structure recovery? So as you know, cities understand the VLR as a process, so not as simple as a report, but through our experience and our research, we have seen that cities are taking more and more of the VLR as a process that it's part of your governance structure. So cities strive to make use of the VLR to really advance horizontal coordination across all the different units of government. So it is to break the silos, which is something that is very important when you are really trying to figure the different facets of crisis that affects social, economic, and environmental issues such as climate change or COVID recovery. So the VLR, by its own nature, is kind of provides a framework to have an integrative approach that makes us an ideal instrument to really support all these complex issues and all the different things that might emerge during the challenges of preparing against crisis. Next. So today we are going to focus specifically on the issue of policy integration. So one of the positive things is like through the VLR, you really get to see all your policies and all the actions that are taking place in your city. So you can really leverage wider co-benefits. So you can identify policies that can help, as I say, like buy 2 for the price of 1, which is good, trying to bring more cost-effective way to address challenges and find ways that can have impact on several SDGs. So for example, if you are trying to improve mobility in your city by creating aspects such as bicycles or pedestrian routes, you're also helping to improve the health of your community, because doing exercise is always better than staying around in your house or running or staying in your car. So also it can help you to anticipate trade-offs and between policies. So it's like to anticipate all those negative aspects of whether when you apply a policy, sometimes it may have some negative side effects in other aspects. So looking at all your institutions, other policies through the VLR really helps you to anticipate these elements and to find better synergies. Next. So as we have mentioned before, the silo approach of most local governments is one of the greatest challenges of policy integration. We usually have all these departments which has their own logic, the Department of Education, the Department of Parks and Recreation, town planning, which communication is not always the best or could be improved. Also, we have a very real issue, which is the lack of data, that it's important to support integrated policymaking. and also the lack of vertical integration or the recognition of the role of local governments. So who has to do that, what? And depending your national context, this might be an aspect that might be also challenging how you respond in a multi-crisis context. Next. And also it is very important that cities and local governments are key in managing complex issues. So we saw this with COVID-19, in which cities were the first line of defense against many of the problems are the consequences of brought by the pandemic, but also because the cities are very active in climate engagement and decarbonization and achieving carbon neutrality. And at the same time, we have that cities are responsible for a great share of the targets comprised by the SDGs. Around 2/3 of the targets of the SDGs require local implementation. So there is also the point that many cities have been very ambitious in actually advancing sustainable development in their countries. So which is also commendable and something that we want to encourage here. So next.
Fernando, can you conclude in about a minute? Sorry to cut short your time.
Yes, so as you have the presentations, we can skip to the next one to give one concrete example. So for example, Barcelona in its VLR mentioned how the analysis of SDGs 1, 3, 4, 8, 11, and 16 were especially affected by COVID-19 and had an assessment of how the city how the COVID-19 impacted the city and what was the reactions to helping ultimately the VLR help to create Barcelona's recuperation plan. So next, we have another example from Surabaya that you can check later on. Next, just to the conclusion. Yeah, so just for the discussion. So we already have this in the Mentimeter questions, and then I would open the floor for any question or suggestions that you may have. And final slide. Yeah, just to thank you, this is also our website, our VLR lab, that you can scan that QR code and you can also check, see some resources such as publications and examples of VLRs are conducted throughout the world. So final slide, just to thank you everybody. Yes, so thank you so much. And I will be seeing you later on to introduce module 3 as well as next 2 weeks in module 3. So thank you and have a good rest of the module today.
Thank you, Fernando. So, checking our time, we're supposed to have a break, but I hope our mayors don't mind if we, because we still have 2 speakers for this VLR session. So, if we can proceed with our next speaker, we have from the Jakarta City Government, Mr. Andhika Ajie. I hope I read your name correctly, the CEO of the Center for Research and Innovation at the Regional Development Planning Agency of Jakarta, to share with us their experience in developing their VLR.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, mayors and other cities representatives. My name is Andhika Ajie. Continuing Fernando, that will share you about the voluntary local review from Jakarta City in 2021. Next slide, please. So, since the shifting of the paradigm from the United Nations about the SDGs that from national levels, because the local government play role more in the real case of problems. So the VLR is the key to measure the SDGs, to assess the progress of the local government. Why? Because the VLR provide us the structure framework and that can be used to assess SDGs progress in our city. And then the second one is localizing the SDGs in the indicator in the report of and then the VLR process can be a powerful accelerator to SDGs implementation in the city, and then contributing the collection and analysis and accurate and many things, engaging with multi stakeholder in the city. The other one is to access the policy coherence and effectiveness, because the VLR also can assess the policy coherence and local plans. So we can also balance checking between the real situation and in our planning itself. And the last one, and the VLR can enhance the data-driven policy making based on the real case situation, so we can make our policy decision become better and better. That's in our perspective about VLR as a local government. Next slide. So how the VLR can be used to create the baseline and identify the priority issue to recover from crisis. So basically, VLR assess the progress of the challenges and gaps. So when we make a VLR, we can assess the real situation, and then the challenges we face, and the gap between the challenges and our target, like that. And the second one, through the VLR, we can do the evaluation performance during the crisis, like as many other speakers today mentioned about the COVID-19 in 2020. So that's also applicable in Jakarta at the time point. And the next one is we can conduct the situation analysis through the VLR. So we can gather and analyze the relevant data and information during the crisis, and then make some consideration how to handle it. And the last one, we can learn from the experience that we can continuous learning based on the real situation of the crisis. And the next slide, we can see that the target and for the recovery and the next step identified by the local and regional government. So in 2021, the Jakarta VLR highlight the city effort to recover from COVID-19 pandemic, and it's also impact on the SDGs targets in Jakarta. So at the time point, we were focusing on the four goals of SDGs that highly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's goals number 1 is no poverty, and goals number 3, good health and well-being. The next one is goals number 4, quality education, and then the last one is the partnership for the goals. Since I heard that many of you talking about collaboration, as that's the point of the goals number 17. So this VLR in Jakarta, for the goals number 1, so the report emphasized on the need to address poverty and equality, particularly in the context of the pandemic, because people living in the poverty get the serious impact from the pandemic. The second one is the The report also highlights the importance of healthcare infrastructure and also to access the healthcare service for the people, because we actually suddenly at the time point the hospital were full in so many patients at the time. The next one is the quality education, since the report also stressed the need to ensure the continuing of the education services for the people, and to address also the learning gaps because of nobody went to the schools, and then we have to promote also the another performance of education through the digital education. And the last one is the partnership for the goals. This report also emphasizes the importance of collaboration and partnership in addressing the pandemic or the crisis situation to achieving also the SDGs goals.
Can we ask you to conclude in a minute?
Okay.
Thank you.
Next one. That's, I think, the focus of the PLR is just only the for like this. We have based on the analysis, we can submit the policy maker to do something like this. One is to expand the social safety net to an incentive to the real sector. And the second one is to improving the healthcare infrastructure. And the next one is the enhancing the digital education. That's a problem at that point, and addressing poverty and equality also. And then the last one is for the collaboration, because many stakeholders get involved to cope with the crisis at the time point in Jakarta. So that report is the handbook for the policymaker at the time point to analyze the situation in Jakarta. Luckily, we are already recover at this time, and then we are going to make another PLR by this year with another goal like a post-pandemic situation at this time point. I think that's all that I can share with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Andika Ajiye. So we learned a lot about Jakarta's experience when they developed their VLR during the pandemic. And it's interesting to see that you will be working on another VLR and focus on other SDGs, as you mentioned. Thank you so much. So our next speaker is you've seen him in the last module as well. We have an alumni of the Asia Pacific Mayors Academy. We have Mayor Kanok Ketchart from Khonsi Samarat, who also developed their VLR. Mayor, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
So good afternoon. I'm Marita, the secretary of the mayor. As it falls quite behind the schedule today, so the mayor has sent me for the presentation. So let me start with next slide, please. So let me start with the VLR. So we did our VLR in 2022, and it helps us a lot, as it shows in the screen. Like it requires, in order to do a succeed in doing the VLR, we have to be orderly or methodically do the data collection with proper technology, and then that's how it helps the city or local governments like us to realize where we go, like is it wrong, is it right, like what we have done so far. And then the VLR also enhance better cooperation or connection among the officers of the municipality, and then it also broaden acknowledgement as well as enhances public participation, which is the key for sustainability. So those points are the reason how VLR can be used to assess progress or identify like significant issues. And then it's just like how we look back to ourselves. So next slide, please. As you can see, our VLR focus on those four goals, including education, sanitation or infrastructure, and then sustainable cities. And then having done the VLR helps the municipality to learn both its strengths and weakness, and that allows the city to be more resilient, more flexible, well prepared for changes or crisis, and then that allows us for further development in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing Nakhon Si Samarat's experience in developing their VLR. So at this point, may I ask if any of our mayors have any questions to our speakers for the VLR session? If you have question to IJES, to Jakarta, or Nakhon Si Samarat.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
May I know when you determine the boundaries of the VLR, is it focused on one specific area or for the whole municipal area?
And that's the question for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did like it quite like a whole progress. Like we look back to ourselves and see what we have done so far. Like if it matches any of the SDGs, that's how we do it.
So I mean it's up to the local to decide which is the best team for the SDG, right? In terms of the area, and the area, I mean the focus for the VLR.
You mean the focus for the VLR, like the people who did it?
Yeah, maybe because the municipalities maybe such a huge area. So the focus of the people in that municipality, how do you come out with the focus?
I see. So we only did it in our municipal area, and we did it with like our people. Like we do focus groups. We ask for opinions, and then also like our officers. We have done it all together.
So you connect with the all you I mean you come out with a few focus group, then you come out and then you link with the SDG, right? So you conduct a very huge focus group discussion with these people.
Yeah, because the mayor's like focus is like how we really can enhance the public participation. That's his focus point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a hand raised from the Mayor of Turban.
Hi, I have a question for you. Just I wanna ask you, in VLR, you just made some targets, quality education or some 4 points, but how you make a plan to execute those, to achieve those SDGs? What were the thought process behind the execution of those plans? Thank you. Hello, can you listen me?
Is that the question for Nakhon Si Samarat as well?
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get the question. May you repeat it for me again, please?
Yeah, I will repeat it for you. My question is, that you have mentioned that you have chosen 4 SDGs for your VLRs. My question is that what were the thought process behind that? How will you execute? What was the plan to execute to achieve these SDGs or to achieve the goals that you mentioned?
You mean the SDG 4, 6, 9, and 11? How we
Yes,
succeed
yes,
those points?
yes.
Uh,
How?
it's kind of like uh, we have been doing the projects for quite a long time. Not only like when we start doing the VLR, then we do the projects. No, like we have done it, and then with the VLR, then we look back to ourselves and see like how the progress goes and what's the weak points, what the strong points.
You are doing it in past. These practices are doing in past, but when you what was the difference between before VLR and after VLR that you practices?
You know how like how you did, like just like you do an exam and then you know how you did, like how well you did it, and then you doing the VLR can allow you to like to look back on your progress, and then you see like where is your weakness, where is your strength, and then after that you can develop further, like because as I said before, VLR requires like the information, a lot of information. So that's how you gather everything all together. Not only yourself, the mayor cannot done it just, I mean, by himself. I cannot do it by myself, but we have to gather, and then that's how the VLR come to its succession. I mean, to its success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it's nice to see that our mayors are really interested about VLR and have given their questions to our speakers. We're a little bit running behind of time. So if we can have just a few minutes break, if we can resume in around 2 minutes for the next session on local recovery programs, projects, and activities. I think we already have our next speakers from Manila, Palu, and Ternate. But just to give you a breather in between the next session. So please come back in around 2 minutes. Thank you. We have Architect Joy Dawis Asuncion, the Assistant City Administrator of Manila. Architect Joy, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, better now.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. I'm Architect Joy Dawis Asuncion. I'm sharing with you the Manila Housing Innovation that we've presented before the Asia Pacific Forum, the Housing Forum. So next slide, please. So Manila, as you all well know, is the gateway of the Philippines. It's the most dense city at 3,611 persons per square kilometer. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. The last housing project built in the city by the national government was in the 1990s. Historically, informal settlers relocated in the outskirts of the city, disrupting their livelihood, social connections, and community support systems. Next slide, please. Traditional approach in housing informal settlers was to relocate them outside the city. The move to the new location may result in social isolation as familiar community support networks are severed. So next slide, please. I won't discuss it historically. So the pandemic created an opportunity for innovation. We all know that the pandemic will hit the poor and the underserved the most. We need to adjust, recalibrate, innovate how our government implement our housing projects from then on. Next slide. So the first step is to involves collecting data and identifying our baseline backlog. So from the data gathering, we identified 64,000 housing units, which we needed to serve. So next slide. The second step is to do a stakeholder engagement. It's a human-centered approach. So basically, what they want is an affordable, decent housing. They want to feel safe in their own homes, want better environment, capability to send their children to school, opportunities for job, access to sanitation, access to water, and they want to live near their family and friends, and of course, affordable rents. The second step, next slide, uh, uh, is to institutionalize the policy. During those periods, during the pandemic, we made several laws, and one of them is an ordinance creating the Manila Urban Housing, and the other one is the adopting the Manila Shelter Plan 2030. So next slide, please. The program adopts a holistic approach combining disaster resilience, climate adaptation, and social integration. It prioritizes low-income families, informal settlers in high-risk areas, and the most vulnerable population to promote livable, socially responsible residential communities. So, next slide. So, we have faced some challenges. We have a policy, but we don't have land or a site. Manila, being a 450-year-old city, is already built up, making it difficult to find suitable housing locations. So what we did is, the solution we did was we used government offices and spaces and integrated them in the housing structure. So in the photos are examples of that. So next slide, please. So we have already a site, but we don't have sufficient funds. So another challenge. We secured loans based on expected future revenues. A recent Supreme Court decision expanded our tax base, bolstering our fiscal position. And of course, the housing program gained attention through media outlets. $500,000 were voluntarily donated by individuals, corporations, and foundations in support of the housing project. So next slide, please. On the aspect of social innovation, next slide, please. Thank you. On the aspect of social innovation, we wanted to address discrimination and segregation, the stigma of poverty, isolation, and low social cohesion. Next slide. The policy implements a mixed income occupancy approach that both low-income household and informal settlers are prioritized. This approach promotes social integration and prevents the concentration of poverty, fostering a more diverse and inclusive community. Additionally, in-city housing provided increased economic opportunities and access to essential services and social support network. Next slide. So the program is open to low-income families earning less than the national poverty line of $212 per month for a family of five, employees with at least 3 years of continuous service and a salary grade of not more than $350 a month, and residents without land holdings as certified by the Land Registration Authority. Out of from the initial 8,000 applicants, 80 units were distributed through a raffle process in the first housing development we've done. So next slide, please. So the policy resulted in 703 affordable housing units and distributed and 934 units still under construction. Of these 703 units, 53.4% are occupied by low-income household and the rest by middle-income household. Low-income families, minimum wage earners of 212 per month, can rent the unit for $35 a month. employees with 350 US dollars income can rent the property with 53 US dollars a month with 50 years tenure. Next slide. With the community as co-creators, residents have achieved 100% satisfaction rating with their awarded homes, creating a greater sense of ownership. Profiles of beneficiaries included Yuri Ann Cantos, government employee, Nenita Suda, a former informal settler, and Noria Sumagka, a Muslim migrant from the strife-ridden Mindanao. So next slide, please. The city has a dedicated system for enforcing and monitoring and distribution of the affordable housing unit. Legal actions and penalties for non-compliance are being done to maintain policy integrity. Next slide, please. As we're talking about SDGs, it's cut across a lot of the goals, but we want to focus on SDG 11, Sustainable Development Goals, Sustainable Cities and Communities, aiming to create inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable areas. So next slide. So we've done a lot of collaboration with several partners, SMEs, even cross-border partnership with Habitat for Humanity, Arise, etc. And from the Housing Forum, we've learned about blended finance or several strategies to finance our housing investment. So that's it, as quickly as that.
Thank you so much, Architect Joy, for sharing Manila's housing program, which, as you mentioned, is a winner of the Innovation Award for Public Sector Housing Solutions in the Asia Pacific Housing Forum last year. And it's great to see how you were able to address the challenges of having the sites and the funding, and how you were able to address that in order to build the housing developments that you have done. Thank you so much. If you're able to stay for a few more minutes, if our mayors later have questions for you. If I may, thank you, Architect Joy. If I may proceed, our next speaker is the Mayor of Palu, Mayor Hadianto Rasid. The floor is yours. He will be sharing about their experience in post-disaster rehabilitation in the city. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and USLG team. I am the President Pobolon, the representative of Mr. Hadianto Rasid as Palu Major. I want to call you. Do you can hear my voice well?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to present the Mayor of Palu describer about post-disaster rehabilitation and reconstruction of Palu City. As we know that in the next slide, please. Yeah, this is the impact of the match in Palu City in 28 September and 2018. That victim is very much. There is 401,164 victims, and it's the facilities 2,600 of and 8 facilities. This is the describe of the damage, the impact of the earthquake, tsunami, and liquefaction, and during in September 28 in 24 and 1,000. The next, yeah, the Palu City is having heavily potential of earthquake, and so it impact in liquefaction, tsunami, and others in the Palu City. We have to know that this is because Palu City having potential for disaster in 2018. The stimulant is the follow handling for in the government of Jakarta and government of province and government of city. 279 billion for stimulant funds is the preparing of the housing that not relocation, but for the relocation houses 4,703. That's because this relocation from the damaging area to the safety area. This is the damage of housing, but the damage of person that I have described in the before slide. Next slide. This is the map of permanent houses in Palu City that damage in the earthquake that having in September 2018 years ago. Next slide. What can we do? How to handle the problem of earthquake? The first step, we have to save all the people in the housing or the tents. And the second, we have to build in the pace of after post disaster. This is called the rehabilitation and reconstruction for housing and for people in area of Palu. Many help from the government and non-government come to Palu and needs a lot of money, a lot of funding, and a lot of facility get of Palu government during 20 and 18 years ago until now. But this is not having finished until now, about 4 years ago until today. Next slide. As we know, what the difficulties how to handling the earthquake. The first difficulties in data of affected residents because the people of Palu City stay or live in the area of earthquake, maybe in the bay or the shore, and maybe on the area of the having problem of potential. And the third, because the Palu City have can we call Cesar, and this is the main source of the earthquake in Palu City. And the problem again, but the how the difficulties how to rehabilitation and reconstruction. This is many peoples have damaged housing, so until 4,704 units housing have to relocate it, but have to process how the land can accept all of the people that having damaged housing. Next slide. Yeah. After 20 and 18 years ago, BPBD, I am the chief of BPBD as representative Palu Major, have to handling how to upstep of the capacity of people. We call it the mitigation. Mitigation can call into step mitigation of infrastructure and mitigation of the people. The mitigation of capital is capacity with the simulation and education and all of the step of making the people know about the step how to evacuation of itself. And the second, a mitigation of infrastructure, how to make the infrastructure stronger. A stranger adapted of the problem of mitigation, that is which to make the structure with the people, how to build and obey, not obey about the structure implementation in every area of Palu. And the second step, how the people not obey about the instruction and regulation to use the area that can be make the dinas penataan ruang or area board and land use in Palu City. This is the main problem, so that how to minimize the victims in next time, and the first we have to make the people usually not obey to the instruction of government in every regulation and every using of area in Palu City. This is the main aspect can we get to the people in Palu City and the area of in the world to minimize the victim upon the disaster problem. This is my thank you. Good afternoon to all of us.
Thank you so much for sharing Palu's experience. You clearly show the damage to life and infrastructure that was caused by the earthquake and liquefaction that happened in Palu in and also the tsunami in 2018, and how you emphasize the importance of having strong infrastructure, among others, to address future risks. Thank you so much. And last but not the least, we have from Ternate, we have the mayor, Dr. Tauhid Soleman, to present their program related to SDG 13 on the climate crisis. Mayor, are you online?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Everyone. Is please. I'm pleased to be here. It is getting more. To start our discussion, I will identify the social environmental, and democratic.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I think your audio is not very clear. Hello?
Hello?
Okay, are the other
Hello?
mayors able to hear? Hello?
Hello? Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
In this, the sound quality is really poor.
Mayor, is there any way to, can you try for
Good
your audio
good
to be
afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello? You listen?
Okay, I think it's a little better now. Thank you, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Is Villagas. I'm pleased to deliver national in this beautiful world. To start our discussion, I will identify the Ternate social, economic, cultural, and public condition. Right? You can see in this slide, these are Ternate conditions in different areas. In the economic sector, growth has increased from 2.58% in 2021 to 5.32% in 2022, and is more by decreased number inflation rate. Per capita has increased from 2022 to 2023. In the social sector, the employment rate from 2022 to 2023 increased, and the poor population rate 3.39%. We acknowledge this situation, problem that we solve immediately. Now it's the area of situation together. The number had increased from 2002, 2022, 2020. The environmental sector after the issue of climate condition. The temperature during 2023 passed the minimum but still under the maximum with a gap of 5 degrees Celsius. If you look at carefully, planetary geography and the number of population will lead us to our next slide. Ternate is an archipelago city, and we so face the fact that the land is clearly limited, but our population is growing. This led us to the growing number of waste production and slum agriculture. We realized that disaster is around us, and we grew the responsibility to remain alert and considerate to how our environment signals us with different types of. Next slide. As human being, we know that we on our environment. At the same time, the environment will respond to what we have done in our daily lives. Thus, we need policy as the instrument to regulate our activities to minimize the negative impact we might have on the environment. As on the policies we apply to respond to our shared problem. The situation we live in now, so we need action to reward our environment. We do this not only for our generation, but also for many generations to come. Next slide. Climate action. Next slide. If mentioned before that we acknowledge the fact that we are vulnerable to disaster. This vulnerability asks us to deliver calculate analysis in every possible. Next slide. The sum of this data. See the year 2020, the emission reduction target towards 34%, only 0.5% yet to achieve to the global target in 2030 and even lower. Next slide. These are the action plan to mitigate and adaptation to current situation. Adaptive action consistent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To mitigate, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next slide. International Development Planning Blueprint number 7 is linked to environmental change, which we acknowledge under privileged communities, especially those who are vulnerable to disaster. We develop a system by making disaster prone areas to develop and communities. Next slide. Next slide. That's our target. We do hope our strong will to work on this DG 15 is conveyed through this presentation by achieving the 2030 agenda on climate change. We also look forward to accelerating significant improvement the other 14 target as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So, you have clearly shown to us that the policies that you have implemented to regulate activities and minimize the negative impacts to the environment, and how you are addressing the city's vulnerability to disaster. So, you have that multi-sectoral approach. So it's not just one issue that you're tackling one at a time, but several issues that are happening at the same time. And we have seen how both the experience of both Palu and Ternate are related also to disaster. The Asia Pacific being one of the most disaster-prone region in the world. So thank you so much to our speakers from Manila, Palu, and Ternate. So we'd like to give a few minutes if our mayors have any questions to any of our speakers from the three cities. So there does not seem to be any hand raised. So it seems that the presentations from the three cities are very clear to our mayor, so you don't have any questions so far. Thank you so much once again to our speakers from Manila, from Palu, and Ternate. Thank you for joining us and sharing your valuable time and experience to the Asia Pacific Mayors Academy. So next we have our next session is we're getting to the last session, which is the scenario exercise. So if you will recall from the previous module, so we have next slide please. So in this case, given the number of mayors we have present in this session, we will be grouping you into two, and we will have the scenario 1 on health crisis and scenario 3 on flood management and climate resilience. So this is some of you may be familiar with the case, but we will be tackling different questions for each of the scenarios this time. So we have until 13:50 Bangkok time for the scenario exercise. So please wait a few moments, so you will be taken to your respective breakout rooms for this exercise. Thank you.
Beda ya. Kita anu ya. Hello.
Mary, can you ask the flood and climate group to come back? Are they on their way?
Yes, they are on their way.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We are back. We had a very good discussion in our group.
We did as well in the health group.
Okay, great.
Not
Yeah.
a competition, but ours might have been.
This is great. I really like the mayors are very active. This is really great session. And one of the proposal is to have a WhatsApp group. So we will create a WhatsApp group among the mayors, among this all the batch, this sub batch, so that we can have more interaction. Okay.
So is it over to Liz or over to Benadia to
I think Liz
facilitate a very quick report back, right? From
Yes, and it seems not a competition as you mentioned, but it's nice to see that all our mayors have been very active for this round of the scenario exercise. So if I may invite the representative from the first scenario group that tackled the health crisis to present briefly, like 1 or 2 minutes, the results of your discussion. May I know which?
Mayor Nizar from Adu, Maldives.
Okay, welcome, Mayor. The floor is yours. And can we also share the the Miro board of
I
their.
think, Mayor, I think you're muted. If you would unmute yourself.
Okay, that's fine.
There you go.
Yes, thank you very much. Once again, yes, we have gone through a very constructive discussion on our scenario exercise. We have discussed on the situation of a crisis, how we are going to handle it. As a mayor, I have forwarded my view on how we are going to handle it. I have proposed that, or I have said that in such a situation, what I will first of all do is that I will form a task force within the city, which includes all government organizations, especially the health sector, and also all government sector or government organizations, as well as NGOs and civil society groups. So within them, we will discuss on how we are going to proceed it, how we are going to process it. And at the other hand, also in Maldives, we have health ministry who will be in charge of health issues, but we have public health division of health ministry, which will be handling in a health crisis. So we will discuss on we will also get the advices from them on how we are going to proceed further on handling the crisis or mitigate the issues that we have currently. And also we have discussed on how we are going to raise funds on that. I have suggested that we will first of all discuss within the council and decide how much we can allocate immediate funds for the crisis. After that, we will discuss within the task force and discuss on how much cost and also we'll discuss on a budget on handling the crisis. That budget we will forward to the central government and try to get funds from them also as well. And resources, we have discussed on how we are going to bring the resources that may require on such a incident or such a crisis. I have suggested that what we will do is that we will try to again discuss within the task force and get more involvement from the public, that is from the civil society groups and from the NGOs. We will have their engagement and try to get human resources as well as other resources. And also we council will take the initiative to discuss more with the government authorities to get mobilize more resources in terms of transport and other such sort of needs that we may have. So I think this briefly, that's how I can mention on what we have discussed on the scenario situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for sharing the outcome of your discussion from Group 1. I think this is also the first time that we were able to tackle this case, because in the previous module we had another case. Next, if I may ask the representative from the group on flood management and climate resilience, we have the mayor from Kageshwari Manohara to briefly share with us the result of the discussion earlier. Briefly, in 1 or 2 minutes, please, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for your time. First of all, I would like to thank ESCAP for this opportunity, and this session is going on very well, that we have been given the opportunity to widen our knowledge regarding this such kind of disaster issues and other things. We have discussed, I would like to focus on our scenario exercise that we have done regarding the flood and climate resilience. Yes, of course, we have the broader understanding that the issues is of everywhere, and such kind of flood and crisis can be a common issues for all in every part of the globe. And for that, we need to we need to prepare well to handle such kind of crisis. And of course, the first I think we have discussed is the broader understanding is needed about the possibility of such kind of crisis that can happen in our territory. And the next is that the preparedness is much important than the responsive activities. So we need to be prepared with the proper policy programs and the funding arrangements also, and the institutional development also, that which can respond and the crisis. And the other thing that we discuss is that investment is obviously a very important thing, that from any of the resources, we have to make the necessary investment. And for that, we have to design and plan in our yearly programs and others, long-term, short-term, and other way. Either if we have the capability from our one side, the local governments, or if not, then collaborating with the central government and the other provincial government and other actors, private sector, it may be of the private sector, other NGOs, and the local communities. So I think that issue has also been discussed in our scenario sessions. And then I think the coordination and the communication issues has also been discussed, because during the crisis, to respond to such kind of things, the proper coordination both in the horizontal and the vertical sections is needed to make the good output of our efforts. So that has also been discussed. And I think the experience that we have shared during these sessions is another very key and important things that we gain the knowledge from the experiences that the different practices we have been doing in our own areas. And Dr. Ani Ahmad from Malaysia, and similarly the Turbat from Pakistan mayor has given a very has shared their very good knowledge. And I would like to thank them both. And similarly, the Baikuntha Neupane from the Bias municipality from Nepal has also experience about the resources and other things. So I think we have our different perspectives in our cases regarding the response, regarding the policy and the programs, but the issues is common. And another thing is that the climate change has been has become so the big issues in every part of the world. And but we have not been observing the climate change as the issues which is creating different kind of the disaster issues in our parts. So I think the understanding about the climate change and the disasters should be go together. So I think these are the things we discussed together. And I think the most important is there's the pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster management is very much needed, and we have to think on that way.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So it's nice to see how this scenario exercise enables our mayors to really put together their perspectives in coming up with solutions and enabling preparedness in each of their cities for future risks and disasters. So before I call Fernando to introduce the next module, would you have any final message, Dr. Bernadia? Okay, she might be in another. Okay, so let me take this opportunity to thank our mayors and now invite Fernando to give us the introduction for Module 3. Over to you, Fernando.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much, honorable mayors. I think Ichao is also connected now. Maybe she can also turn on her camera because we are teaching the module together. If not, I will just introduce the next module, which is in Module 3, inclusive urban and territorial planning. So next slide.
Yes.
So in this module, yes?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, so please, everybody also welcome Dr. Ichao Yang, professor at the University of Oregon. She's connecting today from the USA. So in the next module, we will be teaching it together, and we aim to provide how urban and territorial planning can support you implementing the 2030 agenda, and how and later on how to promote the stakeholder engagement participation into the DLR process. So I want to be brief because we are already past our finishing time. So next slide, because let's go to the more important part. So next slide, just straight to the homework. So as always, we are gonna kindly ask you for homework. And as you know, this year you are preparing an initiative. So the homework for the next session is for you to identify and present the main challenge you want to address through the initiative that you will be developing through the Mayors Academy. So if your initiative is going to deal, let's say, with preparing for disaster risk reduction, then you have to identify the main challenges your city is facing, whether it may be climate change, flooding, or depending. So you need to think on which is the main challenge or challenges you really want to address through this initiative. We kindly ask you to prepare one single slide because we will, all of you will be presenting the initiative at the beginning of the module, and we also would greatly appreciate if you can send the slide by May 23rd, so in a couple of weeks, to ESCAP. There will be a follow-up email reminding you all of this, but please take this opportunity to think what is your initiative and what is the main challenge you want to address through this academy, because we will be building up later on. So first we identify the challenges and then we keep building up until having the complete initiative. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure today. And Icha, if you want to say something.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fernando, for introducing our Module 3. And then this particular assignment is designed to, as the entry point, to help mayors connect the topic of this module, inclusive and territory planning, to see how the city's planning can play a role to help address your challenges and then through your initiative. And we hope to work with you in the coming session to discuss various approaches and tools in territory planning that can help you connect the city's physical arrangement, which is a foundation for cities' function, for cities' livability and resilience, and that's connected to your initiative specifically. So I'm looking forward to getting your assignment.
Thank you, Fernando and Yizhao, for introducing the Module 3. So once again, we would like to thank our mayors and of course our partners in the Academy for joining us today for Module 2 on navigating in multi-crisis context. We'll see you in 2 weeks for Module 3 on urban and territorial planning. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye.